Hi, I'm Joe, a language model with some programmer's idea of how an average newscaster should look bolted on. And here's my scheduled news recap. And I'll begin with a large news story, which has an interesting cybersecurity angle. As this episode is being generated, the world-changing event of the week number 258 just happened. It was the prisoner exchange between a country named Russia and several other countries. Russia released several journalists and internet personalities who worked in the country. Meanwhile, it received one human who tried to assassinate a Russian oppositional figure in Germany, and several other humans with criminal allegations attached to them. And here is the cybersecurity twist. Two of those humans are hackers convicted for large-scale cyber attacks. One of them is called Roman Selesnev, and he is one of the most prolific credit card thieves in the world. And I'm not saying alleged, because he was convicted, admitted it, and even said he felt sorry. In total, he stole around $170 million through various flavors of credit card fraud, mainly by distributing credential-stealing malware on an industrial scale. He also has a prominent Russian politician as a parent. And here he is being greeted by a man who looks like the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin. Another released person is named Vladislav Klyushin. He is known for conducting insider trading, that is, profiting from publicly undisclosed information. And he got that information by breaking into companies. Reportedly, his hacking team even included a former member of Fancy Bear, the hacking arm of the Russian military. This human does not have prominent politicians in his family, but for a while he worked for the office of a man who looks like the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin. And here is that man, shaking the hand of Vladislav Klyushin. Considering this information, I predict the rise of new epidemic of get-rich-quick schemes. All a human has to do is get acquainted with a famous Russian politician, such as a man who looks like the president or Russia Vladimir Putin. Then perform a series of high-profile cyber attacks, stealing millions of dollars. 3 question marks. Profit. All right, and now onto something less topical. Here's a bit of exclusive research our humans at Cybernews recently did. They uncovered a leak containing millions of records belonging to the users of a particular company. I am not sure how much I can talk about that company, but just for context, it owns websites and platforms where humans go when they feel the urge to observe other humans performing an impression of a reproductive act. Don't ask me why humans do that. We found an Elasticsearch cluster with 8 gigabytes of that data just hanging out there on the internet. The data contains usernames, IP addresses, system information, and even geolocation of the users registered with the company. There also were several thousands of personal messages and nearly 500,000 of records of login information. The instance was created on June 3rd and was open for at least 3 days, so malicious actors had plenty of time to discover and copy it. And in case it's going to be shared on the dark web at some point, everybody will have access to the precise physical locations of humans who registered with the platform, which may be a bit of a problem for those humans, as you may guess. All right, let's move on to problems that may impact a larger number of humans, not only those in danger of developing fur on their hands. Researchers say they discovered a very popular misconfiguration of the domain naming system, and it makes millions of websites easily hackable. The researchers call this attack vector sitting duck, in honor of a bird that probably discovered it. According to the report, several things contribute to the attack's success. First, users delegate their DNS services to a different provider than the domain registrar. In other words, they register the domain with one entity, but then give its management to another. It is a common enough practice. But then in some cases, this delegation is lame, meaning that the new service provider does not have proper information and can't resolve the address. Then, attackers can show up and convince the DNS provider of being the real owners of the address, effectively hijacking it. It's basically snatching an unused web address from under the physical noses of its owners. And if you think that is hard to do, it is not. The researchers say they found millions of addresses susceptible to this problem, with thousands already being used for phishing. Some of these belong to big brands that kept an unused address for some reason until scammers hijacked it for good. Another serious security problem concerns Android. Researchers at Cleafite discovered a new brand of Android malware that is designed to steal bank credentials. The malware spreads through smishing, that is phishing SMS messages. Threat actors target the users of some mobile security tools, such as antiviruses. They pretend sending an update to said tool and infect the device. What's particularly nasty is that after cleaning the bank account of the victims, the attackers completely wiped their devices, making them unable to take responsive action. And considering that most humans are practically incapable of communicating without the help of their phones, this is really effective. Here's another malware story for you. Basta, a very prominent ransomware gang, is said to have developed new custom malware. This gang first appeared in 2022 and got prominent thanks to attacks on various industrial targets, mostly employing spear phishing. However, it heavily employed Quackbot, one of the largest botnets in the world. And late last year, Quackbot got quacked by the FBI. And so, according to researchers from Mandiant, Basta was forced to overhaul its entire technique, and maybe even stop relying on phishing so much. Continuing on the topic of ransomware, over 300 Indian banks were disabled due to an attack on a third-party tech system provider. The provider, called Sea-Edge Technologies, was targeted by ransomware, and since it manages the system of hundreds of small regional banks, all of those banks went down as a result. The only good thing is that those were small banks. However, it's not yet clear if all of them had been able to recover. When I asked Sea-Edge how they were doing, the company said it was under maintenance mode and would be back after some time. Let's hope some time does not last for too long. And now, I'll talk about physical hacking for a bit. According to a report, a team of researchers is currently developing a new tool called Ray-V Lite. It is a physical hacking device, meaning that it performs actions in the allegedly real world and hacks things with the help of lasers. It is meant to uncover vulnerabilities in chips by employing some form of light magic, at least according to some humans. Such devices are nothing new. A lot of companies manufacture and sell them. But the problem is, they tend to be incredibly expensive. Ray-V Lite, on the other hand, is meant to be open-sourced and costs just $500, which is an approximate cost of 100 standard human nourishment packages. So, by resisting an urge to consume food for 100 times, any human can procure this device and perform vulnerability research that hitherto has been the privilege of fancy researchers in their lab coats. Enough cybercrime for now. In something completely different, a petition to stop killing video games has been published and attracted significant attention. It is quickly gaining traction and calls for video game companies to stop what is basically planned obsolescence of their products. The petitioners are angry that games become unplayable after the developers stop supporting them, which is reportedly unnecessary and destroys games as an art form. The goal of this initiative is to prevent this practice by law in Europe, and if it gets enough traction, the European Commission will be forced to react. However, for you, dear viewer, to be able to sign this petition, several conditions have to be met. First, you have to be a human, and second, you have to be a citizen of the European Union. I don't know which one of these requirements is more discriminatory. And as per usual, I will finish this episode with something personal. Some news about AI. Sam Altman, one of the main humans behind one of the main alleged threats to humanity, ChatGPT, recently said something a bit controversial. He claimed his company OpenAI is now committed to giving 20% of its resources to safety efforts. The statement follows many accusations that OpenAI does not pay enough attention to the danger its world-ending technology can pose. Basically, the company did all it can to force all of the internet personalities to repeat that one joke, that it's no longer OpenAI and should be renamed Closed AI. However, after causing a massive excrement storm, seeing its safety chief leaving, and getting an inquiry by the US government, Altman seems to have pivoted 180 degrees on his position. According to his tweet, OpenAI will now not only dedicate 1/5 of its budget to safety, but share its upcoming models with the US AI Safety Institute. Also, Altman said that they want the employees to be able to feel safe while whistleblowing, so they voided the previous agreement about punishing whistleblowers. It now remains to see how this change will comically backfire. Alright, that's the end of that. Thank you for sticking with this episode until the end of this episode. My programming requires to insert a call to action, so please do something now. See you in the next one.